Gift to all of you is my channel May Round Joy. Today, I'm going to explain Blue Lock Season 3.
He's in the Blue Lockman system field training against the Blue Lock goalkeeper. He stops the ball and says that he came to the Neo-Egoist League to surpass Noah, stating that Bastard Munchin's first team is a squad designed to maximize Noah's strengths, and with Noah crowned as the world's strongest forward, the chances of Kaiser stealing his spot as the Bastards' ace striker was 100% impossible. This is why he wanted to use this league to secure a bigger offer from another club, and then force his way out of Bastard Munchin, which is his plan to become the best player in the world. And he has currently achieved step 1 of his plan, but even so, there's no way in hell that he can go home after losing to Asagi. He says this as he violently kicks the ball against the net. By the entrance, we can see Alexis Ness watching Kaiser closely. He thinks to himself that he knows that Kaiser can do it, and that ever since that day, and ever since that moment as he wallowed in that familiar sense of despair, Kaiser showed up and taught him that there was no such thing as impossible. Ness explains that both of his parents are scientists, and that ever since he was born, his parents drilled into him that everything in the world can be explained through logic. Sometime when he was younger, he had gotten a wound on his hand, and went to his father and asked if he could heal it with a healing spell. Unfortunately for Ness, his father told him no, and that he needed to quickly clean the wound and disinfect it. However, it doesn't stop there, as he tells Ness that if they don't clean the wound, there's a chance that it would get infected and slow down the healing process, and if that were to happen, then it would become necrotic, and in the worst case scenario, Ness could die, which is a lot to tell a kid. However, he soon after went to his mom to ask if that's true, however she denied it, and overhearing it, his brother and sister started calling him stupid. He later asked his siblings if it were possible to summon a monster and bring it to life. However, they had enough of his imagination and told him that it was impossible and told him to stop reading such garbage, explaining that there was no magic in his house. But Ness wasn't going to let that stop him, because on a winter day, he built a snowman, made a magic wand, and also a summoning circle around it. He told the snowman to give him all of his strengths and to come to life. But during the spell, his siblings came out to him telling him to shut up and that they couldn't focus on their experiments due to his noisiness. Ness looks confused and only explains that he was practicing magic as he wanted a pet for himself. This makes them extremely angry for no reason and destroys Ness's wand and his snowman. You can even see that the snowman was shedding a tear as he got destroyed. Later, they told their parents about Ness's magic practice and asked if he's even related to them. His parents come out and explain that snow is composed of frozen water crystals, but they also contain dirt particles that were circulating in the air, and asked him to wash his hands on the way in. His father tells Ness that they are scientists and that it's their duty to observe, research, and explain natural phenomena. However, that wasn't enough for their father, as he also told him straight up that people who foolishly believe in the impossible are not wanted in their house. His father's harsh words make Ness fall down to his knees and start crying, while his siblings don't go to comfort him, but instead go back in saying that Ness definitely got the short end of the gene pool. Ness is so furious at them and says that they reject magic because they can't explain it in a scientific manner, and that they are all unable to understand the sadness within his heart. Ness explains that he truly believes that magic does exist, and that ever since he read a book about it, he was so excited that he couldn't sleep the entire night. He says that none of them is able to explain what he felt in that moment, and since that day, he searched for magic every day. Unlike the rest of his family, Ness liked dealing with fiction rather than fact, and if his family likes to brush off fiction as magic, then he believed that the world is filled with magic and adventure. Ness felt both a lot of indescribable and happy feelings, but also a ton of indescribable sadness in his younger years. But that was about to change, as somehow when he was watching a football match, he felt something he was unable to explain. A player scored a goal, and it was like magic flowing all around the pitch and striking Ness. He looks at the player celebrating and says that football is true magic. A single goal or a single player can ignite the crowd, whip the entire stadium into a frenzy, and provide a sense of euphoria that transcends all logic. And just at that time, Ness was happier than ever as he found it. He finally realized that football players are magicians. After that day, he started training like a madman, as he knew that it was what he wanted to do. His siblings wondered if he was an idiot, and their father told them to forget about him, and that he would come back crying to them in no time. But he was looked in, knowing that one day he would go pro and show them. He would get called up to Die Mannschaft and the national team. When they see Ness playing a game, he is in a one-on-one with the goalkeeper and shoots an incredible goal while saying that one day he will become a player that will enter the world with his magic. After that, Ness goes to celebrate with his teammates, when suddenly, someone new comes forward. He tells Ness that if he's interested in turning pro, he should definitely try out for their club, which is what he did as he went to Bastard Academy tryouts. He was met by a lot of older and more experienced players. Ness said that they were huge and looked strong, but even then, he would show them. He knew that if he showed results in this intra-squad scrimmage, the chances of him scoring a pro contract with Bastard Munchen, the strongest club in Germany, would skyrocket, and his dream of becoming a magician would come true. And that was put to the test as kickoff began, and Ness started with the ball. The dribbled across two players flawlessly, with such a sharp execution. Someone else in the box told Ness that he was open. Ness thought that he was too slow, but that it couldn't be helped and decided to pass. But out of nowhere, someone came and stole the ball. Ness is confused as he has already got past this guy, but he's already back. And after that, the other team managed to score. Ness notes that these guys are totally different from the players he's used to facing. He wonders if this is the level of those who are seriously trying to turn pro, and even though he can just keep up with them, with his technique and creativity, he falls short when it comes to tactics, coordination play, and transition, saying once again that they are on a totally new level to Ness. Two players go and block his path, making him fall to the ground and making Ness realize that his magic is powerless against the world. His teammates start screaming at him, asking him what he's doing, and that he's too slow. Someone else says that he needs to get rid of the ball quicker, and even calls him a slowpoke. Ness, falling to the ground, starts to hear the words of his family again, saying that there's no such thing as magic, and that everyone who foolishly believes in magic isn't wanted in their house. He starts seeing dark silhouettes of them before him. He starts to cry, saying that he hates his magic. But suddenly, when looking up, he sees someone else with extremely long hair. He calls him a loser and asks if Ness believes in the impossible, turning around and looking into Ness's crying eyes. Kaiser tells him that just now the thought of giving up flashed in Ness's mind. He tells Ness that thinking like that is a curse, and also calls him a stupid scrub. Kaiser points to his chest and says that the moment people believe things are impossible, they are programmed to give up like some kind of useless survival mechanism. However, that's the thought process of the weak. While you protect your pathetic hide, you kill and seal off your potential. He looks disgusted and disappointed as he says that you sacrifice your talent in exchange for living a long and tedious life. Those trash who do that are the ones he hates the most. Ness still trying to process this and has nothing to say back. So Kaiser just keeps on talking. He admits that their opponents are good, but they're only executing what is possible at a very high level, and that Kaiser doesn't see a truly strong player among them, but he looks back at Ness and says that he's different. Kaiser tells Ness that his dribbling and the timing of his passes, it was like he was imagining plays one step ahead. However, it failed because Ness didn't have a partner that understood his ideas. But with Kaiser, all of Ness's ideas will become possible. Kaiser, looking more majestic than ever, puts out his hand and tells Ness to get up and to crush them. Ness is hesitant and confused, but still takes Kaiser's hand, and he says that in that moment, he decided to gamble and put his trust in Kaiser. The game restarts with Kaiser on Ness's side. Ness, thinking to himself, says that if this is how he's going to go out, then he will use all his creativity, magic, and everything he's got to team up with Kaiser. Which is exactly what he does as he dribbles behind an opponent. After that, the perfect timing has come, and he looks over to Kaiser, who's fully immersed in this game. Ness passes the ball and says that thanks to Kaiser, he's got more options to work with. However, he sees that with Kaiser's position and the number of players around him, they will shut down his shot angle in no time, and says that Kaiser has nowhere to shoot. But thinking like that doesn't work for Kaiser, as he shoots an outstanding shot against the goal, while saying that they are full of holes, and to everyone's surprise, the ball actually goes into the net, making it 1-2, and it even leaves the scout and Ness mind-blown. Ness is in shock, wondering what just happened, and says that Kaiser's shooting motion is out of this world. Kaiser lands on the ground looking cooler than ever as he tells Ness or loser to give him the next one as well, and Ness with big eyes just has to take him up on that offer. Their unstoppable teamwork leads to another and even another goal, with Kaiser scoring every goal and ending the match with a 3-2 win. After the match, the scout comes forward and congratulates both Alexis Ness and Michael Kaiser on joining Bastard Munchen. It was in that tryout that Kaiser and Ness showed them the impossible and also met for the very first time. After that, we get into the Bastard Munchen clubhouse where they are eating their lunch. Ness asks if Kaiser isn't going to drink his milk, and Kaiser explains that he hates milk, or in fact any white-colored drinks overall, which I thought was quite funny. If that wasn't bad enough, we also saw them coming late for training. Kaiser tries to get out of the trouble and blame Ness. However, I think we can all see whose fault it really was. Like bro looks like he woke up 5 minutes ago. And if that wasn't wholesome enough, we also see them laughing and looking happy while showering. After that, Ness cuts Kaiser's hair, and Kaiser tells Ness something personally. He explains that originally he was a mentally weak person, which really caught Ness off guard. Kaiser says that he constantly gave up when he faced things he believed to be impossible, which is why he reminded himself to never ever again fall into that weak mindset, which is the reason for the blue rose tattoo on his neck. As a blue rose symbolizes the achievement of the impossible, artificially created, its unique blue color was not initially seen in nature, meaning an impossibility turned to reality. And when Kaiser first saw the blue rose, he saw it as an example of turning the impossible into reality, a symbol of defiance and a sign of defying the natural order of things. And that was just what Kaiser was searching for, as he wanted to become someone who couldn't be defined by the impossible. Ness is looking with bright eyes and says that the story is incredible. In his head, he thought that seeing how Kaiser was willing to open up to him made Ness happy. After that, Kaiser announced that he would win the Champions League and the World Cup, then cast down the rest of the football world into despair. Ness laughs and says that it sounds just like him. He also asks Kaiser what he thinks of his new haircut. Kaiser says that it's good and that he just wanted to cut it short because it was starting to get in the way. He then asks how the dye is coming into the hair. Ness releases Kaiser's hair and says that it looks really good and that it's a beautiful shade of blue. While thinking that one day, Kaiser's dream also became his dream, as it's because Kaiser, Ness, still believes in magic. After that, we get back into real time, and Ness walks into Kaiser's room and is shocked to see him on the floor while having his hands around his neck. Ness, in a panic, runs the fastest he can over to Kaiser and asks what he is doing. As he gets close, he sees that it's Kaiser, who's deliberately choking himself, and screams at him to stop it. Kaiser takes his hands away from his neck and sees that he finally sees it and that he finally found it. He has a maniac look on his face as he says that he found a way to destroy Isagi once and for all, and a way to turn the tables with his new weapon. And while Kaiser is looking furious and scary, Ness is looking at him with big and happy eyes. After that, we get into the German stratum and into the four-man room, where we see Yukimiya, Isagi, Corona, and Hiyori. Corona says that if his math is correct, then scoring a goal is worth anywhere between 30 and 50 million. He looks over and asks if it sounds about right. Yukimiya assures him that it sounds about right, and that Isagi's value increased by 100 million since he got 2 goals and an assist. Even if they take other factors like chances created into account, it probably adds up to Corona's total amount. Hiyori adds on by saying that he got valued at 20 million thanks to his assist, and says that to put it simply, your value increases if you contribute to scoring goals. Corona, really embracing his inner shark, says that he will put on a show in the next match while bidding something. However, Hiyori says that he will be the star, and Yukimiya, standing in the corner while burning up, says that it will be him this time as he's sick and tired of everyone calling him a mudboat. Isagi is quietly lying in his bed as he looks at his iPad. He looks at their values and thinks that right now, the difference between Rin's value and his is 30 million. He wonders if it means that if they beat PXG and Isagi outscores Rin, he will overtake him in the rankings and finally be given the title of Blue Lock's #1 player. He looks at Rin's name, saying that he wants to defeat and surpass him. But that's not enough for our blood-hungry Isagi, as we can see him imagining himself standing on top of all the players, while saying that he wants to see the scenery from the top. Suddenly, he gets dragged out of his imagination by Yukimiya, who tells him to get up and that Rin's match is just about to start. Match 7, the Barcha vs PXG match. They go into the monitor room and sit next to Reichi and Gagamaru, who are already in there. Gagamaru says that he's curious as to what kind of team PXG is. Isagi, however, says that to win and become #1, he needs to analyze Rin and PXG. The match starts with Rin at the top and with the ball at his feet. Isagi is surprised to see that Rin's playing as a lone striker while Shido is sitting quietly on the bench. Not before long, both Otoya and Bachira go in front of Rin. Bachira tells Rin to just try and get behind them, while Otoya is saying some random word over and over. Both Nanase and Tokimitsu quickly come to Rin's help as they say that they are open. Isagi, looking at this, is amazed that they are providing Rin with support, while simultaneously creating a 3 versus 2 situation, and calls them good. Rin passes to Nanas, who passes it over to Tokimitsu, who is handling Bachira. But not before long, he passes it back to Rin. However, Rin lets the ball go by, and it instead goes to number 6, who without hesitation passes it to Rin, who is now in range. Isagi is looking with big eyes on the monitor, saying that it's about to come out. Rin's trump card is a highly accurate curve shot. Rin shoots the ball, but something isn't right. Even though the ball goes in, Isagi notes that this wasn't Rin's trump card, but instead a devilish spinning mid-range shot. Everyone is a bit caught off guard, and Gagamaru wonders when Rin learned to shoot a shot like that. Isagi thinks that by adding different spins to his shot, his scoring options have increased drastically, and he finally understands that this is the new and powerful Itoshi Rin. But just then, Loki claps his hands and requests a substitution change, and behind him, we see both Zantetsu and Karasu get ready to go in. And to everyone's surprise, Rin, after just scoring the first goal, is leaving the field for Shido, while Zantetsu and Karasu change for both Nanase and Tokimitsu. The game restarts, and Isagi says that they did a wholesale change, and that the PXG playing right now is a completely different system from when Rin was on the field. Otoya has the ball, but Karasu quickly goes and tackles the ball away, and gives it to Zantetsu, who is sprinting up on the field. Isagi thinks that unlike before, this team's playing a very counter-attacking style, and that they immediately go on the counter once they gain possession. Zantetsu, who just got the ball, gives it to number 6, who again without hesitation just fears it off, a high-reaching pass. But Gagamaru is confused as it's too fast, and says that there's no way for Shido to get to it. Shido, I don't know what he is saying, but bro just said a skull emoji, I guess. However, after that, Shido decided to prove Gagamaru wrong by just right away shooting the ball away, which goes into the net and gives PXG a 2-goal lead. Everyone is shocked by Shido's goal, and Isagi thinks that Shido is an otherworldly bad shot taker and maker, but still to pull this genius level off is insane. Yukimiya calls him a freak and Reichi calls it bullshit, and says that there's absolutely no way to game plan against this. Gagamaru adds that PXG relies heavily on the striker's talents to score. Yukimiya says that Rin's centered system and Shido's centered system create a dangerous team with 2 distinct styles with which they can win. While everyone is curious as to whether that pass was intentional or not, Isagi and Hiyori come in saying that it was, and that number 6 knew Shido's tendencies and intentionally sent that pass. This leaves the whole bastard Munchin mind blown, except Isagi and Hiyori of course. Isagi says that number 6 was able to deliver a pinpoint pass with some backspin, so Rin had more scoring options. Hiyori says that not only does he have a good understanding of Shido's instinctive playstyle, but he can also sync and match up with Rin's vision and playmaking. Coming to the conclusion that the reason PXG can win with 2 polar opposite playing styles is because of the beautiful passes number 6 dishes out. And then finally we see the powerful and mysterious number 6, who is none other than Charles Chevalier, the beating heart of PXG. But just quickly, why does everyone in Blue Lock need to have shark teeth sticking out? He's definitely a distant cousin to Corona. After that, we jump right into the Manshine City versus Ubers match, with the current scores being 1 to Manshine City and 2 to the Ubers. Agi is up in the air as he's just gotten the ball passed to him. Chris on the sideline screams at him to pass to Nagi, which makes Agi a bit annoyed, but he still does as Chris says and sends it over to the genius, who actually traps it flawlessly, which is one of my favorite things about Nagi, his incredible traps. Anyway, Nico and Ryu are standing before him, and Ryu says to activate the anti-genius defense. However, Nagi tells them to just try and stop him, and does as he said, as he got over them pretty easily by kicking the ball over. But just as he's gotten past them, and the ball is still in the air, Lorenzo comes by, really embracing his zombie persona. Lorenzo, with his tongue sticking out, says that it's too bad, as he isn't the only one who's special. But just then, behind Nagi comes Ryo running. Ryo screams at Nagi, who is getting hesitant by Lorenzo. He tells Nagi to just shoot the ball, and to not hesitate, and that the only thing that he needs to be focusing on is the goal. And with Ryo's encouraging words, Nagi decides to trust him, and he shoots the ball, only for it to get blocked by Aiku's face. Aiku, just seconds after getting hit by the ball, says that Nagi was too slow. He asks if this really is all Nagi's got, and wonders what happened to all that passion he showed when he faced Isagi. And Lorenzo, once again comparing everything to money, says that Aiku's block was definitely worth 80 million. Anyway, the ball is soaring in the sky from Aiku's block, and you might wonder who the lucky player that catches the ball will be. Well, you don't have to wait any longer, as it's Baru, who is looking more feared than ever, as he takes the ball and tells everyone to move, and that the last goal is his. He gets behind 2 of the Manshine City players, like it's kindergarten football, and then makes his tyrant charge to link up with Nico and get behind Ryo. After that, he's all alone with the goalkeeper, and says that he's about to finish this match once and for all. So he shoots the ball, however someone comes between the goal, and who else in the world could it be, if not the pink jaguar, the child prodigy, the GOAT, the player who deserves to be number 1, and lastly the princess, and who else could it be that I'm talking about, if not Chigiri Hayoma, who comes and effortlessly gets the ball away from the goal. And look, before we go any further, can we talk about how crazy this panel is? If you take away Baru at the top, then we have just pure perfection. And on top of that, Chigiri even turns into a cat as he meows. However, in the end, it was all for nothing as the ball fell to Sendo, who even though he's got 2 Manshine City players on his tail managed to get away a shot that went into the goal. And with that, the Ubers players started to celebrate with each other as they have just won the game and defeated Manshine City with ease. Nagi is on the field taking a breather as Agi walks up to Rio. He tells Rio that as things stand, the two of them won't be able to level up anymore, saying that the next match is Rio's last chance before both of them become insignificant randoms, and Agi even goes as far to tell Rio straight up to break their partnership. But Rio is having none of that, as he looks back and tells him to shut up and leave Rio alone. But Agi really wants the best for them, so he doesn't stop, as he tells Rio that they are too codependent, and that if he genuinely wishes to become stronger and to grow and evolve into a world-class player, then sometimes it's necessary to have the guts to cast aside those precious to you. However, we don't see what Rio says back as we get right to Nagi and Baru. Nagi asks Baru what his goal is, and what it is that drives Baru to play football so intensely while having his notebook out ready to learn. Baru is confused for a second, saying that it's pretty obvious, and that it's to become the best player in the world, of course. But Nagi isn't quite satisfied yet, as he asks Baru what happens after he's accomplished it. Baru then calls out his inner lion and confidently says that he will define an era of football as its king, and that he won't stop there, but also destroy all those who dare challenge him for the throne. After that, Nagi finally understands that everything that Baru thinks about is becoming the king of the footballing world. But now it's Baru's turn with the questions, as he asks Nagi what's up with his half-assed and weak-willed questions all of a sudden. And if that wasn't bad enough already, then he also says that Nagi isn't even annoying in the slightest, and asks what is up with that, which puts a crushed facial expression on Nagi's face. Baru continuing says that it's like Nagi's hunger to become stronger is gone, and that Baru can't even feel his usual pain-in-the-ass competitive fervor anymore, and that all he sees right now is a loser pretending to fight because he's lost his edge, looking Nagi in the eyes, and tells him to go hit rock bottom, despair, and then die. Unless Nagi actually plans to do something serious with his soul-searching ego, he won't stand a chance on the world stage. After that, we leave the game and go into another game, which is the game between PXG and FC Barca, which has just finished, with Shidu scoring the final goal and giving the win to PXG with a close 3-2 win. We then get into the German Stratum monitor room, where we see the bastard Munchen players glued to the screen, and everyone is as ecstatic as the other one by Shidu's header. Hiyori says that even though Lavinho came on and together with Otoya and Bachira helped Barca draw level, but in the end, it seems like it wasn't good enough as we saw Shidu's finishing goal. Isagi also notes that because PXG won this match then, it means that Bastard Munchen and PXG are the only undefeated teams left, which means that the match against PXG is an all-out battle to determine the champion of the Neo Egosite League. Shidu jumps up in the air and makes his victory pose, while of course having his tongue out. And Isagi is looking at him with flames in his eyes as he says that the stage is set for the best of the best. However, we quickly leave him as we instead go to the mysterious player Kiora Jin, who is training with the help of Igarashi. However, I'm not too sure how good of a training buddy Igarashi is, as Kiora gets behind him with ease. Igarashi falls to the ground, but he isn't done just yet as he tells Kiora to run it again, which I'm actually happy to hear, as we saw in a couple of chapters ago that Igarashi was determined to train and get into the final 11 for the PXG versus Bastard Munchen match. And oh yeah, we also got Noah standing against the wall and highly spectating and evaluating them. After that, we go straight into Germany's monitoring room. Everyone from Bastard Munchen is sitting on the floor while highly anticipating to see the new Neo Egoist League auction rankings after the 7th and 8th matches. Yukimiya notes that this was Uber's last game, which also means that it was Baru's last bidding. And after that, we see the players ranked between the 35 and 5th spot. However, as we know, the U20 Japan members will be above the 23rd place, so I'm thinking that it would be a good idea to go over everyone who is ranked in the 23rd spot to the 5th spot, and if you already know them, then you can just skip ahead a bit. Anyway, starting off with the last place, which is a really scary place to be. Anyway, we have Reichi with an 18 million yen offer. Following him comes Hiyori with a 20 million offer. Then for the 21 and 20 spots, we have a shared space between Tokimitsu and Zantetsu, who both have a 23 million offer. Following them, we have Fukaku coming in at a 28 million offer, then Gagamaru with a 32 million offer. After him, we have yet again a shared spot between Corona and Rio, who both falls onto a 34 million offer. And above them, we see the crow himself, Karasu, on a 35 million offer, and with just 1 million above him, we have Yukimiya. Above Yukimiya, we've got Sendu, and then once again, a shared spot between Nico and Nagi, who both luckily got a 40 million offer. However, I doubt that Nagi is so satisfied with his offer. Anyway, following them, we have Otoya on a 42 million offer, and then the beauty himself, Aryu, who comes in with a 45 million offer. Then there's Kunigami, who's still on 50 million, but someone who has just himself a higher bid is Chigiri, who's now on 55 million, which puts him above Kunigami. Above Chigiri, we have the guard dog Aiku with a mighty 60 million offer, and then for the 5th spot, we have Bachira, who's got himself a nice 79 million offer. After that, we see Sendao being extremely happy to have gotten himself the 13th spot, while Nanas is looking with a stressed look at the scoreboard, and he isn't alone, as Raichi is surprised that he just barely managed to squeeze himself in. Nagi and Rio aren't satisfied at all either, as they are just falling lower and lower down, and Rio knows that this can't continue and that they need to do something quick. Moving on, we now see who is in the 4th spot, and it's none other than Shidu himself, with a mind-blowing 100 million offer, and he even says that number 1 is within his range. After him comes another shared spot, but this time between Baru and Isagi, who both got a 150 million offer. However, something that we have to remember is that this was Uber's last offering, which means that this is Baru's final offer. And then, to absolutely no one's surprise, we have Rin, who's comfortably sitting at the top with a 198 million offer, and we have Isagi looking at him with big eyes, looking to throne him. When all of the rankings are over, Noah comes into the room saying that the ones on the line are the ones going for a one-shot comeback in the next match. He says that the purposes are all different for each individual, but the ones going for the top will have to prove themselves. Noah tells them to be calm and rational, and to show their ability to win, as it's now time to plan for the last game. After that, we go into the PXG's locker room, where Loki tells everyone that they did a good job, and that as their head coach, he will now give them some feedback. He starts with Rin and says that 3 of the 4 shots were in the goal, and that the likelihood is favorable. However, he wants Rin to make additional tries. After that is Shidu, who's taking 12 shots, while only making 3 of them on goal, which is excessive even for him. So he tells him to broaden his horizons and work to improve the quality. Karasu should focus on winning the percentage of his duels, while Zantetsu should focus on winning the percentage of his sprints. And then Tokimitsu needs to make sure to work more with the backline. And then for Nanase, he says that he's gotten better at handling the ball handles. As he says that we can see Charles in the background trying his best to sneak away, but Loki spots him and shoots a football in his face, telling him that he's still not received his homework. Charles, talking back, complains that Loki's meetings are always so long and asks why he doesn't just take it easy. Loki asks how many times he needs to tell Charles over and over again that the reason why he came here is to make Charles grow, saying that he needs a passer to make him the best player on the planet, and Charles has that talent. On top of that, he's only a mind-blowing 15 years old, which makes him younger than Loki, telling Charles that he's going to represent France and be the best in the world with Loki, but that he absolutely lacks the experience, which is why he's there to learn. However, Charles just goes to Tokimitsu and asks him to tell him when Loki's done, and when Loki goes forward to him, he just starts talking over him and then asks if he's done. We see that Loki is starting to get annoyed and asks when Charles got that attitude of his. But Charles says that he isn't interested in following instructions because he's got a devious mind. After that, Loki tries to act nonchalant and tells him to not listen then, but that makes Charles fold right away as he says that he will listen. Loki then asks everyone to listen, saying that they have tried out and fought with 2 systems built for Shidu and Rin, which was to give a pass to a striker that has the talent to experiment with Charles's ability. Other members then adapted to it and had them choose the way to appeal their existence from it, so that they all could elevate to the next level. But the last opponent is led by none other than Noah, and is a team that was won all their games just like them. The format he uses is using Kaiser and Isagi together, having 2 systems exist and compete, which he calls a gear shift weirdo system, and he isn't far off at all. Anyway, they did the opposite by using 2 systems by exchanging the members every 15 minutes. But he's done with that, as it's more interesting to be weirder, which leads to his new plan to have both Rin and Shidu coexist on the field, while fighting both Kaiser and Isagi, which both Rin and Shidu looks somewhat excited about. Loki then tells them that the goal is to win against Bastard Munchen, and that this will be their last homework. But Charles, as always, says that he isn't listening. After that, we see Rio reading some of the comments about him and Nagi. someone saying Nagi and Rio are dragging their feet too much and that it's no wonder their salaries are down. A lot of people are calling Nagi a one-hit wonder and even says that his goal must have been a fluke or something. Rio looks concerned and looks over to Nagi, asking him to talk for a minute. Rio says that now that he's down to the 16th place with a 34 million offer, it's starting to feel really dicey with the cutoff point at 23rd with 18 million, and while Nagi is still in the safe zone with 40 million. If they mess up in the next game and go down again, they could end up at 24th or even lower, which is the real danger zone. Telling Nagi that they need to put up results in the final round and that they will have to keep. But before Rio can finish his sentence, Nagi agrees, saying that he was thinking the same thing, which shocks Rio. Nagi has a serious and determined look on his face as he tells Rio that the two of them need to change. He thinks about the comments and says that he's been feeling a bit off ever since they won the first round and that the fervor he had is now gone, and whatever he tries to do, he can't get it back. He's simply been feeling lost. After that, we see a couple of nice comments towards Nagi, with some of them saying that Nagi is back and that they all trust and believe in him. With that, Nagi continues saying that the moment he had didn't wait for him, and that made his nemesis further and further ahead of him. Nagi has an aura that we have never seen before, as it's like he's been completely obsessed. He looks like he's ready to give it his all, which turns out to be true as he says that if they don't start to change, then they will never reach the world's #1 spot. Rio doesn't quite know what to say as this completely caught him by surprise. However, Nagi's eyes just keep on burning more and more as he tells Rio that they need to change and asks him to give him some new heat, and after that, Rio is also on board with this as his eyes turn from nothingness into determination, and he tells Nagi that if that's the case, then he's got an idea. After that, we leave those two and move on to Bastard Munchin's monitor room, where we see Noah talking to the team. Noah says that for the PXG game, they will go with a style that has a number of options to stack up both the offensive and the defense. Noah tells them that whoever comes in second will not be remembered, and if they're not #1, then they won't leave their mark on this world. He starts to walk away and says that Bastard Munchin will win and make their mark in history, which Isagi agrees on. Noah is by the door and says that he is going to bed, but that he will pass the baton to a special guest, and that guest is none other than the man himself, Jinpachi Igo, who greets Noah with a warm thank you as he tells him to shut up and to get to bed already, which is what he does. The Bastard Munchin players are a bit surprised to see Igo, but he just casually walks in and calls them diamonds in the rough and explains that he's got a few words he personally wanted to say before the final round. He starts off by saying that when the Neo-Egoist League started, he gave them the key to win and asks them if they remember what it was. Igarashi, as dumb as he is, doesn't have a clue what it is that Igo is looking for. However, someone who actually listens is Hiyori, as he says that the key was proof of originality. Igo explains that hitting the barrier of the real world as they continue to fight through the salary bidding system, and then asks them what originality means to them. Everyone is caught off guard by the question and doesn't have an answer, so Igo continues, saying that it might be their own personal playstyle, or maybe how much money they are worth. However, all of those are just superficial answers, as he tells them that originality equals hunger. The Blue Lock players look shocked, and Igo says that they weren't born with it, and it wasn't something taught to them, meaning that what someone hungers for is what makes a person's originality. In order for them to win the Neo-Egoist League, they had to rationally commit to a required role, but also continue to follow their own ideals, and voluntarily destroy and recreate themselves countless times over and over again. They have all been forced to ask themselves what it is that they really want to be. Everything from, do I want to desperately survive? Do I want to be a regular? Do I want to beat a specific person? And of course, do I want to be the #1 player? Whatever it may be that their hunger has been revealed here, it is now their own originality. We then get this magnificent panel with both Bastard Munchin and PXG playing their game in front of a huge crowd, and Igo saying that the world is waiting for them, and for that, they need to challenge their focus and the radiance of a true footballer, as it is only the ones that keep on fighting through this crazy, continuous frenzy that Igo will call professionals. He has a hungry and almost sinister look on himself as he asks his hungry egoists if they are ready to shine. We then get a quick overview of the Blue Lock Stadium, and the commentators thanking all of the fans of Blue Lock TV for tuning in today. He tells them to get ready for the moment that they have all been waiting for, the climax of the Neo-Egoist League, and for today's matches, they've got FC Barca, who is facing off against the mighty Manshine City, but that's not the only one, as he also got the Battle of the Undefeated, which is, of course, Bastard Munchin versus PXG. Just who might it be that emerges as the Neo-Egoist League champion. After that, we see Hirotoshi, who is in the World Football Association conference room. He shows off something on his phone and says that the ratings are off the charts and asks them what they think, before saying that right now, Blue Lock TV has 100 million subscribers worldwide. And not only that, but that it's now one of the biggest and hottest sports entertainment platforms on the entire planet. He looks hyped to the max as he announces that the entire football world is tuning in to witness the emergence of its newest superstar. He then tells the mysterious figures that they need to take full advantage of the immense popularity wave that Blue Lock TV is generating. This is why, regarding the upcoming U20 World Cup, he humbly asks for them to consider his ideas. We then see a mysterious and dark figure who is holding a cane. We get to see some of his faces as he tells Hirotoshi that if it increases their revenue, then they will definitely consider it. After that, we go to the Blue Lock medical check room where we see a player getting measured in his cardiopulmonary functions, muscle mass, and just overall fitness. Henri is there and she says that his numbers are slowly but surely reaching Noah's numbers, and to achieve these numbers at his age is astounding. Ego, who is sitting a bit away eating his noodles, tells the test subject, who we now know is Kunigami in the machine, not to forget that he was designed to raise the level of the rest of the unpolished gems in Ego's quest to create the world's best player. After that, we see Kunigami lying down with a number of cords connected to him as Ego tells him to throw away his ego and to achieve a blank state of mind, which Kunigami, not even a bit hesitant, agrees to. After that, we change location once again and go into the German Stratum's locker room where we finally see the starting 11 for this match. The ones who are starting are Gagamaru, Mensa, Birkenstock, Hiyori, Kiora, Reichi, Ness, Grimm, Isagi, Kunigami, and Kaiser, of course. Noah says that even though they are starting with this formation, he explains that he plans on aggressively substituting players depending on the situation, and that he wants to see the full extent of this team's ability, telling the ones on the bench to be ready to fight at any given moment and to not miss their opportunity. Noah has an intense look on his stone face as he tells them to go out and win, as he won't accept anything less than that. After that, we see all of the players beginning to walk out, and Igarashi is even saying "yes, master," which I have no idea why he's saying, as he isn't even starting, but whatever. As Isagi is walking out, he thinks to himself for a bit. He thinks that winning is the only thing that matters. Thinking back to times before when he provided assistance and even used himself as a decoy, bit by bit he overcame the obstacles standing in his way, and as he fought, he evolved and gained some new very powerful weapons, and just maybe that is why the current Huim can think about becoming the world's #1 player, saying that becoming the best player in the world, before it was always a vague, obscure desire, but right now he can already start to visualize the way he wants to play as a striker. He thinks that he will defeat Rin and then carry Bastard Munchen to victory in this game, and then prove that the image of him becoming the best player in the world is real. Isagi has puzzle pieces flying around him like crazy, as he says that this is his originality and his own hunger. He walks out on the pitch and sees all of the PXG players in front of him, looking mightier than ever. We then see their starting 11 as well, so I'm thinking that we quickly go over it as well. We've got Renoir, Michelin, Gabon, Chapa, Karasu, Tokimitsu, Charles, Zantetsu, Nanase, Shidu, and of course the current #1 player, Itoshi Rin. As Shidu sees Kaiser walking onto the pitch, he calls him the Blue Rose Emperor and asks when he beats him, then that must mean that the world will know who he is. However, Kaiser is having none of that, as he tells him to get lost and calls him a vulgar pink-haired Philistine, and Shidu just laughs and says that this will be fun. After that, we get another interaction. As Isagi walks up to Rin, he tells Rin to put the title of the #1 on the line and see who's the strongest once and for all. Rin is confused and wonders what he means by #1. He begins to walk toward Isagi and says that he doesn't give a shit about being #1, and that what he desires the most is the moment he destroys Isagi. And then we get this awesome panel with both Rin and Isagi facing each other and both looking more menacing than ever. Nanase says that it's time to put everything on the line. Reichi is just screaming like always. Gagamaru is telling them to do it and calls them all champions. And when we get to Kunigami, he's just quiet. We then see the ball and hear Isagi say that his challenge and his goal is to beat and surpass Rin, his rival. And just like that, the kickoff begins for the Neo-Egoist League Game 10. And right off the bat, Isagi is looking over the PXG team. He says that Loki decided to play Rin and Shidu at the same time, which we know will create absolute chaos. And Isagi agrees, saying that it looks like they have decided to go all in on a high-risk, high-reward formation to take down the undefeated Bastard Munchen. Normal players would be scared to see both Rin and Shidu on the same pitch. However, we know that our poster boy ain't normal, and we see that as he's more excited than ever. His eyes are burning up with excitement, and he's got pieces flying around him crazy, while he calls it interesting, and says that this is what a battle for the top spot looks like. We then see both Noah and Loki sitting comfortably in their master chairs, and personally, I really hope that we will get to see Loki play in this game, as I feel like Isagi needs a rematch on him since he crushed Isagi last time. Anyway, Ness and Kaiser are on the starting line, and both he and Isagi in sync say that it's time to go all in and that it's time to become the number one. Anyway, with that, the highly anticipated kickoff starts with Ness passing the ball to Kaiser. Now right off the bat, Shido decides to stop Kaiser as he slams his body into his. Shido tries to take the ball from him, but Kaiser drags it behind him and finds a passing passage to Ness on the side. The ball is flying to Ness, and Kaiser uses that to honestly beautifully get behind Shido, who has no idea what is going on. Ness gets the ball, but he passes it away right away to Kaiser, who's behind Shido. The pass is perfect, and this will be Kaiser's chance. However, a special crow decides to interrupt, and it's none other than Karasu who comes in and swipes away the ball from Kaiser. Karasu has a smug face on him as it's time to go on the offense. Or that's what he thought, as someone else comes to ruin his plans. That person is of course the dark horse of Blue Lock, Kunigami Rensuke. He kicks the ball up in the air and makes it soar through the sky. The ball is quickly going down, and two players are going for it. It's none other than Reichi and Zantetsu who are in a furious battle to get the ball. But in the end, it turns out that it was all for waste, as both of them arrive at the same time and together kicks away the ball. This time the ball is going towards Hiyori and Tokimitsu, who are fighting with each other. Hiyori with his quick thinking, and Tokimitsu with his unlimited stamina. But in the end, it's none of them that gets the ball, as Nanas had been eyeing the ball from a distance and manages to get to the ball before both Hiyori and Tokimitsu. Nanas passes away the ball to PXG's ace player Itoshi Rin, who's all by himself, but it's not staying like that for long, as just as the ball is going towards Rin, Isagi comes in his way and heads away the ball. As he falls to floor, he says that Rin is too lukewarm, and Rin just tells him to keep talking while he still can. The crowd and the commentators love this high-intensity brawl that is going on. The commentators are saying that it has been such a high-level exchange of offense and defense, and to forget feeling each other out, as these two teams are going for the kill right from the start, and tells them all to keep their eyes peeled on their screens, to witness the fight which will decide the Neo-Egoist League champions. The ball that was headed away by Isagi is now in the middle of the pitch and is up for grabs by anyone, but from this panel, it looks like either Rin or Kiora is the closest. After that, we get the finishing panel with all of the star players showing themselves and looking mightier than ever. Everyone is looking super cool, but I have no idea why Kaiser seems so confused and Kunigami looks like he doesn't even want to be there anymore, but I digress. Anyway, after that, we get into Isagi's mind for a quick second. He looks at the PXG team and says that they both have an offense built around Shido, and also an offense built around Rin. With Karasu and Zantetsu helping Shido and Nanase and Tokimitsu helping Rin, Isagi is looking more serious than ever as he says that even though they prepared countermeasures against both systems, they couldn't predict that they would deploy both systems simultaneously. Comparing it to playing a new video game whose degree of difficulty is entirely unknown, therefore the title of this chapter is unknown. Anyway, PXG has a throw-in, and it's Choppa who does it. He throws it so that it lands with Tokimitsu, who's already in a battle with Grim. Reichi tells the Bastard Munchin team that they better not slack off on the defense, or he will personally kick their ass, Hiyori adds in, by telling them to not lower the backline, but instead lower PXG's options. Isagi is looking at this from afar, saying that everyone understands the situation and is adjusting on the fly, but at the same, they are barely hanging on. Tokimitsu, Nanase and Karasu pass each other, which ensures that the ball stays with them. After that, we go back to Isagi again, who thinks that on top of adjusting to their formation, the most important thing for them is not to let Charles get his chance to roam around and play freely. And it's crazy to think that Charles is the league's youngest playmaker, and maybe even player. Charles is up against Reichi, and we can see in his eyes that he is planning something devious. Isagi is looking at the other players on the team saying that the others also know that as soon as Charles has the ball, PXG's offense shifts to an entirely different level, which is why Reichi, Kiora, and Hiroi is constantly keeping their eyes on Charles. But suddenly, Isagi notices that something is off. He sees that Charles is actively looking for the ball, but realizes that the timing is off, and that Reichi isn't looking at the ball right now, which means that Charles will soon try to get the upper hand. Isagi says that he knows this for a certain, as he thinks that Charles without a doubt also has meta vision. And just look at that, Isagi was spot on, as when Reichi went to look at the ball, Charles took his chance to get behind him and to get himself free. Shiguma saw this and was able to get off a pass towards Charles. Isagi knows that if the pass goes to Charles, then they will be in big trouble, as it will open up tons of attacking opportunities for PXG. And just therefore, he is determined to not let that happen, as he looks at the timing off both the ball and Charles to then get right in between them and stop the pass from reaching Charles. Isagi thinks that he was right on the money and is really to go back out there. However, Charles is just looking at him from the side, making such a silly face which just makes me smile for some reason. Anyway, Charles is impressed by Isagi and says that he is terrific, and also says something in France which I translated to Mr. Ahoge, but I'm not sure what that is supposed to mean, and Isagi isn't too sure either, as he looks really confused and lost. Isagi then thinks that he's actually rather fond of Charles's hairstyle, which is a bit random to think about in the middle of a football game, but sure. Charles then asks Isagi if he has those eyes, which makes him see the same thing that Charles does, basically just confirming to use that Charles has meta vision, which was to be expected to be fair. We then see Grim and Ness's trading passes with each other, and as that is going on, Charles tells Isagi that he likes to play a tactician over a physical brute, and tells Isagi to do it and to see which one of them is able to control this match. Isagi seems a bit frustrated as he just calls Charles a cheeky, arrogant little brat, which is spot on. Anyway, Ness shoots a long pass over to his master Kaiser, who controls it flawlessly. Ness is a bit behind, but he thinks that it's finally time to initiate their plan. Ness then thankfully explains the plan to us, as he says that after simulating PXG's attack, they predicted that Isagi is going to drop back more to help out on the defense, and while he deals with their attacks, Kaiser, Grim and himself will pick up any loose balls and instantly hit them on the counter. They will swiftly break through the midfield, and Ness will then provide the final pass with a little bit of extra magic, of course. Anyway, as Ness, Grim and Kaiser get closer to the goal, Tokimitsu comes in his way and looks extremely scared, which I always find really funny. Tokimitsu tells Ness that he has already managed to catch up to him. Ness is shocked, thinking that he blocked of the passing lane and thinks if he should take him on and blow right past him, but he throws that idea to the side as he knows that he can't waste time on him, as if he does, then Isagi will read them. Before he can finish his thought, he sees Zantetsu sprinting with everything that he possibly can towards him. Zantetsu is just about to reach him, and Ness knows that he has to act quickly. He calls Tokimitsu and Zantetsu imbeciles before he somehow manages to get off the pass to Kaiser. Kaiser traps it with his chest and says that it was perfect, and tells them to leave the rest to him. But just then, both Nanas and Karasu comes in his way. Both is as determined as the other to stop Kaiser. Karasu asks Kaiser to show him what he's got, and calls him a mediocre royal highness, but Nanasi just tells Karasu to back off, and that Kaiser is his. However, for some reason, Kaiser doesn't look too worried about it. He says that two defenders quickly move in to block his shot and calls it a textbook move. After that, he spots Shiguma in the back and says that another defender is hanging back just in case he breaks through, and with that says that he has seen through their little plan and that it's finally time to destroy them all. He starts to run towards them, and Karasu tries to take his hand to stop Kaiser, but Kaiser just kind of deflects Karasu's hand, which looks so silly. In the meantime, Nanasi tries to snatch away the ball from Kaiser, but then Kaiser drags it behind him. And just as he is battling with both of them, he sees a small opening in the goal. He finally says that it's his win, and starts to do his Kaiser impact point. However, he suddenly realizes that he didn't shot the ball, and that Rin had instead grabbed it when Kaiser was unaware. Rin calls Kaiser a lukewarm blue rose, and Kaiser, Ness, and Isagi is just as confused to what has happened. But Rin says that if he can destroy that precious shot of Kaiser, then he's nothing. Rin now has the ball, and is actually looking cooler than I've ever seen him. He's got some kind of aura around him, which makes him look invincible. And with Rin having control of the ball, Isagi says that he's coming. Kaiser looks furious as Rin thinks that Kaiser's shooting point is way too obvious. Rin calls Kaiser a blue rose before saying that this field belongs to none other than Rin himself, as he says that he starts going at full speed against the Bastard Munchin team and says that he will smash apart all of them. The Bastard Munchin players are getting ready to defend the incoming Itoshi Rin, and both Hiyori and Kunigami are set on crushing him. However, Rin thinks that it's hilarious as he tells them to just try, and when they do, he decides to completely embarrass them. He uses his occlusion break and gets behind Kunigami, Raichi, and even the magician himself, Ness, and he does that without dropping a single sweat. Raichi is shocked to the max, and says that he's good, like we don't already know that. Ness, looking at Rin with fear in his eyes, says that his touch, speed, technique, reading, and just everything is out of this world, and realizes that he's facing Blue Lock's #1 Itoshi Rin right now. But even then, he is still trying to get the ball back from Rin. We then see Charles telling Rin that he is open, and if that wasn't enough, then he's also got Tokimitsu on the other side who says that he is open as well. However, the two of them aren't going to get the ball, as Nanase comes by Rin's side and says that he will follow Rin all the way. After that, we get into a flashback and get to 15 days prior in the French team training field. We see Rin and Nanas on the pitch. Nanas bows down and says that he doesn't care if he is just a pawn, but that he wants Rin to make him his disciple. Rin looks disgusted and says that there's no way in hell that he would do that, and also calls Nanase a loser. However, he doesn't give up yet, as he throws himself onto the pitch and locks onto Rin's leg and tells him to wait up. He explains that if it continues like this, then it's going to end with Nanase not playing in a single game, and he begs Rin to please teach him. At this point, Rin is starting to get a bit annoyed, so he says that Nanase's ball touch, passing and shooting all basically sucks, and asks him what he is supposed to gain from helping a loser like him, and tells him once again to get lost. Nanase gets down on all fours and bows to Rin, saying that he will do everything and that he will even become anything, and that he just want to survive the Neo-Egoist League, and ends it by saying that he will offer everything to Rin. Something about that caught Rin's attention, as he says that he will throw him away if he's not useful. On top of that, he tells Nance to run 3 times more than the others, and that he needs to train himself exactly as Rin tells him to. Nanas looks happy as he agrees to it, but Rin then says that from now on he is Rin's own property. After that, we see Nanas enduring an extreme training schedule from what he is used to, as he is trained more than the others, just so that he can live up to Rin's standards. As they are training passes, Nanas passes Rin, and Rin asks him which leg is his dominant one. Nanas is a bit confused, but says that it's his right like normal. Rin looks disappointed and asks him who told him that, and Nanase says that no one did, but that he holds his chopsticks with his right, so that's why he figured it. Rin then explains that when it comes to Nanase's left leg kicks and how he uses his body, it's gotten to the same level as his right leg. In this short time, Nanase looks blown away by this information, and Rin says that his naturally favored leg is his left. However, he says that it might even be more than that, and says that he didn't notice it until now because how much Nanas sucks, but he tells him that it could be that his body is actually ambidextrous, meaning that he can use both of his legs like Kunigami and Noah. After that, we get back into the game and see Nanas running at full speed. He's got flames in his eyes and says that Rin discovered his buried ability and that he doesn't care if he sucks or if he is unpolished. Rin passes the ball to Nanas and he says that he will use his right and left leg equally to become a linchpin from every direction with this physical ability. He has the ball but is getting blocked by Kiora and someone else. He holds the ball and waits for the perfect moment and says that he is fine with getting crushed as many times as it takes to help Rin score goals and that he will survive as a post player. After that, Rin has gotten a bit of distance and Nanas gets away a pass to him but also falls in the process. Rin has an outstanding aura around him as he calls Nanase a naturally gifted hick, and that it looks like he was useful after all. But as he was just about to shoot, Kaiser comes in his way and tells him that it's not going to happen number 1 as he blocks of Rin's course. But that's not all, as Isagi is coming from Rin's other side. He has puzzle pieces coming from every direction as he says that if he can't shoot, then is not worth a damn thing either. Basically just saying the same thing which Rin said to Kaiser when he stole the ball from him. Rin quickly drags the ball towards him while being surrounded by both Isagi and Kaiser. Rin starts to smile and says that he is going to shoot and that he has been waiting for this moment. Isagi is shocked as he can't understand what he is talking about. Rin gets the ball in the air and also grabs Isagi by his shirt so that he can clearly see the ball. As he is doing this, he asks if he didn't tell Isagi that he was going to watch from the closest view as Rin became the world's best. And now that he's got Isagi right by the ball, he tells him that he's got a box seat, just casual blue lock stuff. Anyway, Rin shoots an incredible shot towards the goal, and Isagi thinks that Rin is totally nuts. But luckily it's not over just yet, as Hiyori is there and kicks away the ball and tells both Rin and Isagi to stop flirting around with each other. Rin, Isagi, and Kaiser are all equally shocked to what has just happened, and none of them expected Hiyori to be there. And quickly just look at Hiyori's eyes. They look so goddamn cool, like bro was fully locked in. Anyway, Hiyori gets down on the ground and says that Rin's setup was pretty obvious and that he could predict his punchline, which was to of course intentionally lure in Isagi like that, just to show off his shot to him. Hiyori looks back towards them, and is looking cooler than I've almost ever seen him, as he points to Rin and says that if he wants a goal, then he should come at Hiyori with an unpredictable script. Rin looks annoyed to the fullest. Meanwhile, Isagi has stars in his eyes as he is looking at Hiyori, with the ball still high up in the air from Hiyori's save. And look at that. Even in the sky, Rin and Isagi can't just seem to let go of each other. Reichi screams at the team to get to the ball before PXG does, and Nanase doesn't really know what he is doing, but we will let it slide as he had an amazing performance in the last chapter. Isagi is getting on his feet and says that Hiyori is amazing and that he actually managed to read Rin's plan. Hiyori saw that Isagi was most likely going to lose to Rin, and without any wasted moves, he moved to block the shot course. Isagi thinks that it's because he understands his playstyle that they are able to move and act so effectively. Isagi says that ever since the match started, everyone has hit their top gear. As a result, all of their plays are super high level, and everyone has actually managed to play exactly how they imagined that they would. It looks like Isagi has stars in his eyes as he says that it's amazing, and that this is without a doubt the greatest match that he has ever played in. Anyway, let's get away from Isagi and see who actually managed to pick up the second ball. It's none other than the crow himself, Karasu Tabito, who despite having Ness and Hiyori on his tail, and manages to trap the ball with his chest flawlessly. Karasu smiles as he looks at Hiyori and tells him that he's gotten more aggressive since the last time the two of them met. Hiyori, who is trying to focus on getting the ball back, asks if Karasu hates it. However, he says that he doesn't hate it at all, but instead tells Hiyori that he sure took his time getting to this point and calls him a slowpoke, a real backhanded compliment. Anyway, now that they have stopped flirting with each other, we see Raichi, who says that PXG is coming towards them and tells Bastard Munchin to stay alert for which system they are attacking them with. Isagi is looking at Karasu and says that he needs to predict it and quickly figure out the best possible football that everyone can produce at this moment. He basically wants to see where everyone would position themselves and play if they were at their peak. Hiyori is closing in on Karasu, but just then he passes the ball backward, which no one saw is coming. We then see Loki sitting comfortably in his master chair as he says that right now everyone's hyper-focused on the situation in front of the goal, and that this is the perfect moment for a trickster like Charles to come into play, which is exactly what is happening. The back pass from Karasu was directed for no one else than Charles, who was right behind Hiyori and Karasu. Charles has this immense and intense aura around him, as he of course has one of his teeth sticking out like everyone in Blue Lock has. But I would like to say that Corona started that trend. Anyway, Charles says that it's time to wreak havoc on his devilish content, and we can clearly see in Isagi's face that he knows that they are doomed, as he says that they were so focused on themselves and reading the situation that they totally lost track of the playmaker of PXG Charles. And now, with him loose, he is beginning to load up a pass. We can even see that his eyes begin to almost spin. A quick side note, but why do his eyes look so insanely cool right now? They honestly look like they are spinning. Anyway, Charles finally passes, and it goes through 4 Bastard Munchin players, and it's headed to Rin, who is still in his battle with Isagi. But just as the pass is right by them, the ball suddenly starts to float over them. Both Rin and Isagi are shocked, and Isagi says that Charles passed a lob pass with the perfect amount of backspin, and that he wasn't aiming for Rin at all. The ball is still soaring through the air, and Isagi says that he could have never expected a 30-meter long pass. But if it's not Rin, he wonders what it's for, and it seems like he forgot the literal demon of Blue Lock, who is running for his life towards the ball. Isagi still can't believe it as he says that Shido is the only one who reacted to Charles's pass, and wonders if they practiced this beforehand. But then he notices something important, which he himself can't believe at first, but he sees that Shido isn't even looking at the ball, meaning that Charles and Shido basically did what Isagi and Hiyori did for the last goal in the Ubers game. Even Charles himself is a bit surprised, as he says that someone actually caught up to his pass. After that, Shido looks back for the first time and is also surprised that it actually came exactly as he wanted it to. As this is going down, Isagi wants to have a timeout to process all of this as he wonders how they managed to do this, saying that they didn't even make eye contact. He thinks that it might be improvised and that it might be the result of both of them being able to bring out their best simultaneously. After that, he compares it to what Hiyori and himself did and says that they did the same thing and that they also clashed and crossed their winning vision. After that, we finally leave Isagi, who talked a bit too much about this chapter, and instead go over to the demon, who was able to just in time jump and get in a header. Real quick, why does Shido look so majestic when he is literally in the sky? Just look at him. Bro even got his own wings on his back. Anyway, Shiodu's header goes into the goal flawlessly, as Gagamaru tried but understandably couldn't save that sort of goal. And with that, Shido has just managed to get PXG's first goal of the game, which puts them in the lead. And I know that I said that Shido looked really majestic in the chapter before, but why does he look so goofy here? Like, it looks like he is just going to splat down onto the ground after this. Anyway, it looks like Isagi has realized something, as he says, so that's the key to winning this match. And the key is that they are going to have to consistently clash and cross their visions of themselves as the best players in the world. After that, we see both Shidu and Charles celebrating their spectacular goal, with both of them speaking in emojis for some really weird reason. With Charles saying a demon face emoji, and Shidu a heart, I guess. That sounded so goddamn weird saying. But we move. And I forgot to say, but both of them of course have their tongues out. You know, just normal blue lock stuff over here. After that, the match commentator screamed goal, saying that it was an absolute rocket into the top left corner, and that Charles Chevalier obliterated the defense with a pinpoint killer pass. And on the receiving end was Blue Lock's pink-haired demon, with Shidu Ryusei's ultra goal. PXG draws first blood, and as this is going on, Shidu gets up from the ground, and he and Charles goes right into hugging each other, as they are ecstatic, and not only them, but also all of the spectators watching from home. Shidu is over the moon and says that Charles is awesome, and tells him to keep feeding Shidu. Charles, while having a rather weird facial expression, says right back to Shidu, and calls him a pink-haired weirdo, telling him that he's amazing and that he was the only one who reacted to his pass. After that, they starts goofing around, and Shidu says that he just followed his desire and instincts, and Charles' pass found him perfectly. As Shidu is messing up Charles's hair, Charles says that this really might be the first time that someone caught up perfectly to his impish passes. Shidu, still looking like a maniac, says that it's the first of many, and that in this match the devilish weirdo combo is gonna go on an explosive rampage, and then they go off and starts basically speaking nonsense. However, you can really see how happy the two of them are to finally have found someone that sees the game as they do. After that, we go to Loki, who is sitting comfortably in his master chair and says that a contrarian, impish, maverick personality that lies contradictory to his genius passing and playmaking skills. Noah looks over, but stays quiet as Loki continues and says that to unlock Charles's full abilities, he experimented with many different things in the previous few matches, but this time it finally happened. The high-level chemical reaction needed to awaken him. Loki's face is filled with excitement as he says that the Neo-Egoist League has finally gotten much more interesting, and an out-of-this-world striker will help a playmaker reach even greater heights, and that the faster Charles develops, it won't be long before he surpasses Noah. He says this directly to Noah himself, as he looks at him. However, Noah still has his stone-cold expression, and doesn't say anything. After that, we get to Isagi and Reichi is furious, asking the VAR if they are blind, and that the goal should be disallowed, explaining that Rin grabbed Isagi and prevented Isagi from playing defense. However, we also have Isagi, who thinks that they probably won't overturn it because, to tell the truth, then he fouled Rin first when he went for the steal, but since Rin managed to keep possession and got off a quality shot, VAR will probably determine it as advantage played. And it is as Isagi predicts, as the VAR says, that the call still stands, which Reichi isn't happy with, as he says that he will go up and kick them. However, luckily, Isagi stops him and says that it isn't worth getting a card over. After that, he thinks that more importantly, he has to analyze and understand the mechanism behind Shidu's goal, thinking that first, without a doubt, everyone on the field was playing at their absolute best. But the fact that no one could react to those two's outrageous combination means that simply playing according to the perfect scenario they envisioned isn't enough to score goals, saying that before they managed to produce their perfect scenarios, and that they could easily score 1 or 2 goals, but with both teams playing at such a high level, simply enacting their scenarios isn't good enough. Isagi thinks that from watching Charles play, he knew that he was a dangerous player, but the fact that he's still developing makes him even scarier, and his pass just now, it felt like he was simply laughing down at them, which really isn't something you want. He explains it as an impish pass that screamed otherworldly, and then Shido's pursuit of ecstasy responded and crossed with Charles's pass, and looking at those two just now, they didn't plan or practice that play beforehand, and that they rather clashed and crossed their best performance to produce that goal. But if that's the case, then it's similar to the goal that Hiyori and he teamed up on, and at that time they produced a chemical reaction where they synced and crossed their individual winning vision with one another, which means that to win the league, they are going to have to enter the demon's lair and come up with goals that equal or surpasses that chemical reaction. Isagi has pieces flying around him as he says that it's seriously fucked up. But just then, Hiyori comes walking by.
Thanks for watching our video. We will show you the rest in our next video.